Hi, everybody, and welcome back to our next episode of Mixed, hosted by An Issue with Cody. I'm here today with Monica Muson, who I'm so excited to have on the podcast. She reached out to me, actually. I didn't have to do the legwork, which was great. And she was like, I have things I want to share, things I want to talk about. So, Monica, could you introduce yourself and tell me a bit about who you are, what you do, diagnoses if you'd like to share them, and any other details?
Yeah. Like you said, my name is Monica Muson. I am a trauma-informed complementary therapist. Some of my diagnoses that we know are I am autistic, I have PTSD, I have hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, I have POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, and I have suspected mast cell activation syndrome. Man, all of these are a mouthful, and it's hard to get them out sometimes.
They really are. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
you're doing great.
Yeah. So all of these lead to me being a ambulatory wheelchair user because I have pre-syncope episodes, but that's okay. And I'm learning to adapt to that. I'm also a mom to a 4.5-year-old who has a lot of opinions.
Always.
Yep. And a small business owner. I'm married to the best human in the world, and we are in a interabled relationship. And that's kind of what brought me on here. And I follow Cody because of that. It's so cool seeing that lived experience. So yeah, I kind of wanted to talk about that and some of my lived experience with dynamic disability, as well as my experience as a trauma-informed complementary therapist and that.
I looked a little bit into your website and all your social media stuff, and I just find what you do so incredible. Could you share like your collection of all of your certifications? Because I feel like what you're doing with trauma is really important, and I want the listeners to know like just how inundated you are with incredible information.
Thank you for that. And so, yeah, a collection is really one way to put it. It's something that I have been collecting for, oh man, it's probably going on around 9 years now. I've collected about 5 certifications in root cause therapy, somatic therapy, trauma-informed life coaching, Reiki energy healing, and sound therapy. I spent 8 years in the corporate world as a nationally certified interior designer.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So I kind of been around the block on a lot of different things.
I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah. And in the last 2 years, disability has kind of kicked my butt. And within that, though, I've really leaned into the holistic healing, and that has been wonderful for my mental health. And it has been really healing for me. And that has been where I've also collected in the last 2 years, the Reiki energy healing and the sound healing. So that's where I'm going with this. Back to my collection. This journey has been a very interesting one. And I started out with just the trauma-informed life coaching and wanting to learn more about what was going on in my head. And kind of having an interest in psychology, but not wanting to go to school for psychology because I was in school for interior design. At the same time, I was working with a life coach, and they were sharing about their program, and so I had learned about that. And so I had collected that certification then, and that was about 9 years ago now.
So while you were going to school for interior design, you started having this shift towards psychology and holistic healing, or did it happen after like 8 years in the corporate world?
Nope, it was at the same time. Nope,
Wow.
happening all at the same time. And it was born out of a desire to understand my mental health.
Mm.
And also my continuous desire to want to help other people. Before I started in college for interior design, I was a certified nurse aide.
Wow.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
could do anything, I'm pretty sure.
So I've written about quite a few of these things on my blog at this point. How I've seen disability from all 3 sides of like being a caregiver, designing the buildings that people have been in, and now being in the wheelchair.
Wow, you have had just a full, like, I don't know, 360 view of what it is to have
Yeah.
chronic illness. Yeah.
So my body's been through a lot.
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say so.
And I've been trying to figure out a lot of things in my life. And so with that came trying to collect a lot of certifications.
So tell me about that transition though, like so you were doing interior design, you were
Mhm.
working through your own mental health during your schooling,
Yep.
but then what led you to finally just give up interior design and just go full trauma aid and everything else that you do?
Nothing. It wasn't really anything except my health. The honest plan was to keep working and building this business at the same time.
Sure.
It wasn't until last year that I ended up having to give up my corporate career because of disability.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So, um, it's something that I honestly wish that I could have kept doing for a while. But I had 8 years in interior design and I was still working on this business. And my hope was someday to have a wellness center here in South Haven. And my hope is someday to still have something along those lines, but small and within my capacity.
Sure.
You know, I realize that my capacity is a lot smaller than it's going to be. um, Recognizing those limits are hard, right? And that's something that's grief, you know? That's
Yeah.
something that I've heard that I've had to sit with a lot in the last year. Learning how to live with a dynamic disability, but it kicks your butt if you do too much really quick.
Yeah, it does. It'll let you know real fast that you have pushed it, even in the same day. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So how do you do that, like, with what you're still doing? How do you find that balance?
Right now, the balance is honestly a lot of medical appointments. I've been shifting into finding a lot of specialist care, which has been honestly very helpful. We have in Michigan the University of Medicine, and that has been very helpful for me with hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.
Oh, really? Okay.
So if anybody's listening and is anywhere near that, mind you, I have to travel 3 hours to get there,
Yeah.
but is kind of on that pacing mentality, like picking and choosing when to invest in my health and when to invest in some time for the business. The business for me is sometimes just for my mental health. It's doing things like this help my mental health because I love sharing about regulation techniques. I love sharing about holistic practitioner green flags and red flags. I love sharing about what I do and what I can help with, but I also love sharing about practical tips and tricks. Like if I can help one person a little bit in some education, great,
Yeah.
you know?
You're a
So,
healer at heart. I think that that's incredible because, like, sometimes it's really hard to take the pain that you're going through in life and turn it into some sort of purpose, to find purpose in your pain. It's a really difficult way to look at what you've been given and really look at others as wanting to help them as well, because it's a painful reality to recognize and accept that you are unwell, and then taking that and giving what you learn to other people is a true healer, in my opinion. So I think that that's amazing that you've chosen to do that. I am curious though, like with your practice, obviously you see lots of people from different walks of life. We're talking about grief, and with that comes an identity shift. So, if what you've witnessed, what happens psychologically when someone can no longer perform the version of themselves they built their identity around?
um, yeah, that it takes a long time. The biggest thing that comes to mind when you say that is just time. And people seem to want quick fixes. When people are struggling with the shift into a chronic illness or a reality or a new reality of saying they lost a loved one or um, some really traumatic event happened, right? That reality often takes more time for their nervous system to settle into
Yeah.
than our society usually wants to give them.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
Corporate money, get back to work. In some ways, it's get back to work. Since I've gotten sick, a lot of what I've heard is, how soon can you be back to work?
Never really checking in on like how you are and
Yeah,
trying to understand like what you're going through. That makes that identity shift really isolating. Would you agree?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I did not have a clean separation from the company that I left, and it makes me sad because I gave them extemporis documentation. And people going through disabled realities are dealing with that all over the US.
Yeah.
So it's such a struggle seeing that happen.
Do you have like people that come into your clinic that are really struggling with identity, and what do you do to help them?
A lot of times it's first building awareness to very slowly around what they like. Most of the time with the identity work that I have ended up working with is usually when somebody has had childhood trauma. Sometimes it's pretty severe, and so we have to start pretty small. And sometimes it's working along the lines of even figuring out what their favorite color is, because some adults don't even know what their favorite color is. And sometimes
Wow,
people think
yeah.
that's stupid and silly. And yeah, you want to argue with me about it being stupid and silly. Well, they will argue about it with
Yeah,
me
yeah.
being
I
stupid and
get yeah, yeah, no, I get it, yeah. But I can see how people are like, why do I even need to know that? That's not,
hmm it comes down to them finding what brings them joy. And it's just those little things.
yeah. How have you like used that for yourself then? Like as you've had to shift into disability, how do you find those little things?
That honestly has been a very helpful technique, that one in particular, because if you can help somebody identify a little thing that brings them joy, that technique can be used in, like, for example, the exercise that I would give somebody is when you're out and about, say at the grocery store, wandering around up and down the aisles, getting your groceries, or if you're with a family member, just watch and see what your eyes are naturally drawn to, what brings you like a little spark of attention, and see what lights up your nervous system, what brings you a little spark of joy. So
Right.
if you can start to notice those little things, that's the exercise that I would give somebody. And just start to bring awareness to what lights up your nervous system. Because some people don't even have awareness around that. So
Sure.
that's like the exercise that I would start with.
That's actually I need to do that. I started EMDR about 5 or 6 weeks ago. I'm not sure where I'm at this point, but I feel really out of touch with my body, with myself, who I am. And with this EMDR that I've done, my subconscious has built this really interesting world. And to make a long story short, there's a green dragon
Yeah.
that talks to me as like a wise figure and like a figure that's like trying to protect me.
So I
And
love that.
yeah, and recently one of the things it said to me was, why do you keep denying beauty in your life? Everything you create is a workspace. You're not bringing you or the things that you love into these spaces. And so it's basically what you're saying. You're not you're not bringing any joy. It's not sparking any aliveness in you. It's not waking up your nervous system to being like, I love being here.
Yeah.
Because I like, not to crack into too much, but like I didn't like the house I grew up in. There was just a lot of hurt and harm there.
Yeah.
So I really have struggled creating my home into a beautiful space. It's a workspace. I'm here to cook my food. I'm here to sleep. I'm here to take care of my kids. I'm here to say hello to my husband. That's it. And so then because the green dragon was like, what are you doing with your life? I went and bought spent way too much money on doing glass mosaics. I've just wanted to do it for so long. and I'm gonna start mosaicing around. See,
And we still have a few of them. I love that. Love that.
see if it sparks joy,
Yes.
or yeah. So I totally get what you mean by that concept, but I love that like you have a simple way for people to start is just go to the grocery store. What is your eyes drawn to? I mean, go to like
Mhm.
a Walmart even too, because it's more than just food, it's clothing,
Exactly.
it's
You can see so
toys.
much stuff in Walmart. Like, go to the yarn aisle,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Play with textures. And, I'm autistic. I love textures, like mess with like soft fuzzy things, play with things that squish, I especially encourage people to play with fidget toys. Like
What
that's
does that do for the nervous system? Like to play with a fidget toy?
so especially if you're neurodivergent, fidget toys do help with what's called stimulation so that you can regulate your nervous system, and it helps calm you down into the parasympathetic state. So that is a way for the nervous system to regulate. So people won't actually see this video where I am actually stimming constantly while I'm talking to you with fidget toys.
I mean, it looks really squishy.
It
I'm
is.
not gonna lie. I like want to reach through the camera and it looks like a nice squishy mushroom.
It is a nice squishy mushroom.
But so it's like it's a way though for the to calm the nervous system.
It is because
Yeah.
for an autistic person, or sometimes ADHD, and sometimes people that get classified with sensory processing disorder and things like that, if you don't and you mask it and you don't stim, you will end up having anxiety,
Oh,
depression, panic attacks,
maybe I need to stim more.
things
I
like that. So, yeah,
yeah.
that is actually very fascinating. And I did not realize that I was autistic. I was diagnosed this year in January. And so that's a very fascinating one. And I didn't know that stimming helped regulate me so much. I didn't know that panic attacks felt like anxiety either. So it's all very fascinating how the nervous system works. And I like bringing awareness to it.
Well, no, I think that's great because I didn't know that that was the purpose of stimming. I've heard of it, but I didn't know that was what it helped with. But I also a little bit wonder, and I mean, like, neither of us are scientists, so maybe this is a stretch, but I do know that those with hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome also are they get sensory overloaded quite a bit just because their body is always trying to rebalance in ways that, most bodies don't have to. I
Yep.
wonder if it could just help even if you're not autistic, although I know that neurodivergence and hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I have it too. It's just a mouthful. I do know they go hand in hand, but it's like a curious thing. I wonder, like even complex PTSD, stimming so that way, like when scenarios just feel overwhelming, something to ground you with. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Because my occupational therapist puts deep pressure on for people with hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos.
Sure.
And not everyone likes that, mind you, and not like deep, deep pressure because, we would pop out of socket.
I was gonna say we dislocate
Yeah.
something.
But just enough for like good proprioception, right? And so like that helps us with some regulation as well.
How would you do that at home? Like deep pressure, like a weighted blanket or
Weighted blankets, also sensory socks. Have you heard of
sensory?
those?
No, teach me.
So yeah, I think that's actually a brand name, is sensory socks.
Okay.
And so they're like lightweight. So if you get overheated, these are the better option instead of a weighted blanket.
Okay.
And people sleep with them, and they're more like stretchy. And your arms go inside of them. They're very funny looking.
Oh, so the sock is your whole body.
Yeah, think of like if you had babies, kids in
Sleep sack.
in a sleep sack. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so it's an adult sleep sack.
Yes, an adult sleep sack. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. And it just helps with proprioception to help the body calm
Yes.
down. Okay.
Yep. And it's kind of like a silky, stretchy material.
That's so cool. I had no idea.
Yep.
I was today years old.
Yeah.
And I've got to look up sensory socks.
That's what
Honestly, I could see my 5-year-old daughter loving that. I mean, she's a little bit outgrown the sleep sack stage. She sleeps with a weighted blanket, and
Yeah, mine
she
has 2
has,
weighted blankets and she's 4.5.
oh my gosh, she
I
likes to be
know.
sat on,
She
basically.
does.
Yeah, that's
I
heavy.
don't. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I know we've kind of gone away from the discussions of like identity. What else have you found that helps your clients with that identity shift or finding who they are? Because like I know that struggle between who I used to be and what I'm arguably almost being forced to become can be really just hard to dive into.
Yeah. So being forced to shift into the new reality, that is honestly sitting with the emotions is the biggest thing. Finding a good support system, working through learning regulation techniques and not coping skills, making sure they have good coping skills, understanding what their coping skills were beforehand. That all comes into play. I've had people on my couch that have had full lives before, like in college and being able to live life and actively working, and then illness hit them and seizures and things, and then they had to go back to living at their parents' house. I was able to work with this person for several months, and it was honestly amazing to see her shift, and her work will continue for a very long time. But because this identity work is something that is ongoing for a very long time, you're going to grieve your identity, you're going to think about it for a long time. You can't predict the future. You won't always be able to know what your limits are. You can only know what you have today. You can only pace for what you have right now. Your capacity is going to fluctuate day to day, sometimes hour to hour, and that's okay. But don't beat yourself up for not knowing what your future is going to look like either. And that's one of the biggest things that I try to teach people is not to beat themselves up for a future that they were hoping to have. And I try to sit with them in the grief of the future that they were going to hope they had. That's
Yeah.
where I feel like I end up sitting with people the most is with the grief of the future they were going to have.
I can see that. I mean, I feel like I've experienced that personally. I'm sure you have as well. And
Yeah.
we live in a society that really presses for where are you going to be in 5 years? Where are you
Oh,
going to be in
absolutely.
10
That's a
years?
big one that I hear a lot.
I wrote a blog post this year on how I hate New Year's resolutions. I hate them. Like deep in my soul, like the Grinch hates Christmas, I hate New Year's resolutions. It's not that I'm failing because I can't accomplish them, although that's what it has felt like in the past. It's kind of embracing the reality that like I am a little bit more metamorphic than what my New Year's resolutions are going to allow me to accomplish.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You can't predict what's going to happen in the next 6 months even.
Nope.
Yeah.
Because chronic illnesses are affected by seasons, are
Yes.
affected by like the cold, the flu, so who knows if you're gonna catch something. Yeah.
They're affected by the date of my next specialist appointment.
Yeah. And it's just, yeah, to kind of shape your identity so strongly in a way that's almost like a list is, they always talk about type A and type B personalities. I feel like there needs to be like different category for but the people that are more metamorphic and the people that are not. And the chronic illness community fits in that metamorphic
Yes.
change. Change is a part of your reality and it changes by day, month, year, and it's okay.
Yes.
It is okay, but it did take me a long time to shift into the okay. I'm actually curious, like, what does acceptance look like to you and how do you teach that to your clients?
That's a good question. Acceptance to me has still been a little bit hard for me sometimes. Most of the time, I'm getting pretty used to it.
Sure.
Acceptance of my disabilities, but there are some days that I still miss it. I used to ride motorcycles, and I think that's the thing I miss the most of going out and doing stuff. So, in acceptance, the thing that I teach, because I'm pretty young, and disability being young is not easy, I don't teach false hope. So that's one thing that we work on, like no toxic positivity. And then we also try to work on making sure that we have a good set of regulation skills for all of the rough days, because mental health is hard with disability.
Yes.
And those help build our acceptance skills of where we're at with being disabled. And sometimes it is going to be hard to accept being disabled. But then we talk about what you can do with what abilities you do have and what goals you want to have with the abilities that you have right now, and what's within those abilities and what pacing really does look like with the abilities that you have. And I work with that from a realistic perspective of real life pacing, because I understand real life pacing very well from the inside out.
From every angle, like we talked about before. The full
Yes, from
360.
every angle, quite well. Yes.
I like that though, because embracing that acceptance, it is a lifelong journey. Kind of how we talked about earlier, that as you go through your different stages of chronic illness, you're going to go through different stages of grief. And it's almost kind of, I hate the grief cycle thing, but it is kind of that where it's, I should say, you don't have to accept it. Trust me, I didn't call myself disabled. Actually, pausing really quick. Sorry. I got to get my oxygen on because my eyes are starting to like black out. Okay. All right. So those that are listening now are going to hear Stanley. That's my oxygen. But I don't think I called myself disabled. Believe it or not, I've been this way in a severe state for 10 years. It went really severe after I had a car accident. Everything really compounded as far as all of my chronic illnesses just rearing their ugly heads after that. And I remember nearly a year and a half ago that I was sitting at a book club, and one of my other friends who has many chronic illnesses made a comment towards me, and she was like, "Well, yeah, Cody, because you're disabled." I looked at her, I was like, "I'm not disabled." And she's like, "Yes, you are." I was like, "No, I'm not." And I got actually upset that, like, how dare she call me disabled, even though I was like likely sitting on with oxygen on, or it was nearby, you know. I like hadn't truly, mind you, at that point, I'd been sick for 8 years, had not accepted that I was unwell, that I had limitations, although I lived with them every day. But the point of acceptance is, in my eyes, and I would be curious to hear your thoughts, it's not about accepting what you can't do. It's about accepting what you can and learning to level life within what you can do.
Yes.
And so I hadn't gotten to that point yet. I was still angry that I couldn't hike a mountain. That's what I liked. You liked motorcycles, which that sounds so cool.
Yeah.
I loved hiking, and I for 8 years had just been living angry that, like, you know what? I just know it. If I just do one more procedure, one more specialist, one more medication, I'll be back to hiking.
Yeah.
And although I still dream of it, accepting is accepting that, like, okay, where else can I create joy and beauty in my life? Because I still am alive. I think it's worth trying to create that in not a toxic way. I also have bad days.
Yes.
I cry a lot, but it's just, where can I fit joy and beauty into my days? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's a very healthy way to look at it. I think that's a very healthy balance. I want to agree with you on the acceptance part there. When we look for those pieces of joy, that is, it reminds me of what I'm really looking forward to with my wheelchair. So I'm a ambulatory wheelchair user, but lately I've been pretty much a lot of time in the wheelchair. And the wheelchair that I have right now is a borrowed one, and I can't really push it around without dislocating my shoulder. And I am waiting on insurance to get me one, which is really close to coming. I've got like a month and a half to go. And I am excited to get it because I am looking forward to all of the things that I will get to do with it and my family, and all of the things that I'll get to take my dog because of that thing. So that's what your story reminded me of.
Yeah.
accepting the parts of our journey, right? So I 100% agree with you. Like, we have to get to that point of accepting the disability. You know, there is still joy to be had. Yeah, I miss the motorcycle, but I still want to do a whole lot of things, but I have to find the tools to do it.
Yeah, and accepting that those tools are truly an aid to help give you your freedom back.
Yeah,
That's what
exactly.
that like I just saw you smile so big talking about your motorized wheelchair, right? Is that what it's going to be?
Yes.
Is a motorized one?
Yeah, it's a manual with a pop on and off motor. So it's like the best of both worlds for my situation.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
because it's a lot to lug around a true motorized one. So
Exactly.
yeah. Well, that'll be such a blessing,
Yeah.
and yeah, accepting that the help that you need
Hmm.
gets you the mobility aid so that you can have your freedom.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then you can find that joy and still get to do things with your daughter.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we look forward to doing things like we like going fishing and camping and things like that. And I still look forward to doing all of these things. And if it
Sure.
takes using mobility aids to do it, then I will, you know?
Yeah.
And those are the kinds of things that I work on helping people pick apart with their own brains,
Sure.
you know? And not everybody will need a mobility aid, right? But maybe they have a limiting belief to get past that we work on.
What would be like a tool somebody could use to help with that limiting belief?
Limiting beliefs can be like things like what they believe people are thinking about them, or what they believe that people are thinking about themselves, or I have a whole sheet of limiting beliefs, like from my root cause therapy certification that we go through, from am I good enough? Do I believe I make enough money? Things like that go into core wounds about ourselves. And it's really fascinating, the things that we hold on to, even from like childhood or even from further into life, like further in like relationships that weren't good, marital abuse, things like that, that
Sure.
then can get lodged and stuck into our body. And we work on talking through and working on somatic processes and seeing what we can process out and let go of. It's really interesting, the beliefs that get stuck in people's bodies, and fascinating.
When it becomes a part of arguably their identity, back to
Yes.
that whole point, and it does, and then it limits what you're able to allow into your life. I'm sure that you see that a lot with people that either are in relationships or want to be in a relationship. What advice do you give to people like that are just trying to let go of limiting beliefs so that they can find that joy?
If you are trying to let go of limiting beliefs to find joy, honestly, the best way to start working on that is, and people are going to probably think this is cheesy for me to suggesting it, journaling is the best way to start. Getting the thoughts out of your mind and to a piece of paper. But if writing isn't accessible, talk to text, absolutely an option. Audio notes is a great option, voice recorder, things like that. Start processing out what's going on in your head. Don't just keep it in your head, because the longer you keep it in your head, the less chance you have to actually challenge what actual thoughts are going on in your head.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised once you actually get your thoughts down on a piece of paper or in a notepad on your phone. You can look at them more objectively and start noticing some of the thought patterns that you might not actually resonate with in your journey now. Then you can notice, like, that's a limiting belief that I don't actually want to carry in my life. There's a lot of different ways to release limiting beliefs. Some people do really well with somatic releases, where we do deep breathing exercises in session. And that's where we do a lot of work noticing felt sensations and things like that. But also outside of sessions, There are also ways to work on letting go of limiting beliefs. People can try and do releases like writing the limiting belief on a piece of paper and burning it. That is a way to let go of a limiting belief and setting the intention to let it go. If you don't have a way to burn it, some people will run water over it, and that will be a way to release the limiting belief.
Yeah.
So those can be ways to help like set the intention of releasing the limiting belief from your body if you have no accessible practitioner or therapy options.
I think that that's a great way to look at it. And I've never even heard of like, because I've heard of the fire, but I haven't heard of water. I mean, so many actually wonderful elements that you could use. You could bury it in a jar of dirt, I guess, if you really want.
You can use also air, but don't litter.
Well, there's that.
Yes.
Or tear it into tiny pieces or
Yeah.
something that just disrupts the thought, I would assume would be what you're trying to do, is trying to take what you're journaling about, which it's funny because I've always hated journaling until recently when my therapist said, don't write your journals like somebody's going to read them one day. Don't write in them like, these are for your children and grandchildren type stories. He says, I want you to raw journal. I want you to write the awful things that your brain just keeps spinning around and
Yes.
around and around in there. And I was like, oh, raw journal. And now I feel like an 8-year-old where I'm like, don't look at my journal. Like, like where you used to like hide it under your mattress. But raw journaling has been the best way. I'm not sitting there trying to explain the backstory of who this person is or anything like that.
No.
I'm just writing straight up thoughts, core beliefs, honestly, that are limiting me and not helping me progress in life. But what I haven't done is I haven't burned it, watered it, dug it into some dirt. So it looks like I've got some work I need to do. And I like that idea.
I love that.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that there's just with this identity shift, not only for, of course, those going through chronic illness, but also like the partner, the shift that they might have to go into being a caretaker. There's going to be a lot of
For sure.
grief. I mean, there's just so much grief when, especially at a young age, when you have been taught you're so full of potential, you should accomplish great, grand things. And the only way to measure that is through money.
Yes.
That's your value, is what money you have, taking that grief for both partners. Whatever resentment you're feeling, just write it down on a piece of paper, burn it. Whatever just heartache you're feeling about what the other person is going through, write it down on paper, burn it. I just think that there's just so much you could use with that tool.
Yes.
And then I guess if you don't have the ability to write, what would you do? What would you suggest for somebody having to do talk to text? Because they can't burn their phone. I mean, they could.
Yeah,
but...
no. You can. Yeah, please don't burn your phone.
Oh, you could. It's up to you. It's your life.
Yeah, your life, but maybe don't.
Don't.
No, the suggestion with that one is to delete the note or delete the voice note and say something nice that with this delete, I say that the intention that this is gone or something nice.
So replacing it.
Yes. Yep.
I like that. These are very good tools. I love all that you've shared because so many people could just hear these things, and if they can't afford a therapist, can't leave their house for a therapist, or just aren't ready for it yet, these are ways to start finding out who you are, calming your nervous system, learning to shift into the new identity and be okay with I mean, you don't have to be okay, but to still love you. I think that that's the biggest thing. You should love you because you are valuable. And I believe that. Everybody is so valuable. As a final thought, though, I have loved that you approach things holistically. That's not something that a lot of people have embraced in the Western world. And I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on what are some green flags people should look for and some red flags that people should be wary of when looking for a holistic practitioner.
Thank you so much for asking that. As much as I would like to serve everybody, I cannot. But some green flags for holistic practitioners: trauma-informed, certified, collaborative, realistic about your limitation. They're willing to respect your medical care. They're really willing to be accessible. They don't promise any cures.
Yeah.
They're adaptable to you and your care plan. They're willing to talk to your care team if needed. All of those things. Make sure they're not trying to gaslight you. Red flags: anybody that tries to say that you need to just regulate more. Any mindset blaming. Anybody trying to say that you should push through exhaustion. Any cure promising, anything that's shaming mobility aids, anybody that says that you should not have support, not get extra support, anything that makes you feel broken for struggling after doing things, anything like that. Anything that makes you feel off, just say no.
Listen to your gut.
Yes.
Yeah.
If your body doesn't feel safe, you're not going to heal. So then just don't do it.
That's a big piece of advice right there.
Yeah.
And even with Western doctors.
Yeah, I've hired more than a few of those.
Same. Monica, it's been such a joy to have you on the podcast. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us, or a final thought you'd like to give about what we've talked about today?
Let's see. My final thought: nervous system work is real and it is helpful, but it is also not a cure. Both things are true. Keep that in mind. I do know that healing spaces can be accidentally shame disabled people and chronically ill people when they lean too hard into mindset and productivity. I hope that support increases your access to life, and that it never implies that you're not trying hard enough.
Amen to that. Thank you so much. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being on Mixed. Thank you so much for reaching out to me. It's been such a pleasure to just get to know you and to learn myself about little tactics and tools that I can take to better help my chronic illness. So thank you.
Thanks for having me so much. I have loved it.
It's been fun. This is so fun. It's just fun to chat with people. And if anybody else listening would like, reach out to An Issue with Cody, any of my social media handles. And if you would like to be on the podcast, I would love to feature more people. Is there a way that people can find more about what you do?
Absolutely. So I am available at my website, www.restorativehhealinghaven.com. And I'm also available on Facebook and Instagram and Threads at restorativehhealinghaven.com. So happy to talk to anybody about all of these things. I have a blog on the website as well, and I keep that updated usually once a week. I try to educate and share resources on all of these topics and keep people up to date.
Perfect. Thank you, Monica. And thank you, everybody, for listening in. Have a good one.
Good one.